Well, hello and welcome back to A Course in Miracles, to the workbook for students. Yes, the famous, or if you prefer, and you've probably experienced on this journey to lesson 175, infamous workbook for students. So why infamous, and what is it about this, well, this segment of A Course in Miracles that makes it so, well known? Well known, infamous, right? What is it about this? A couple words about this before we launch into lesson 175. And it's a very handy tool, referring to the workbook here, because it brings up all of our stuff. Really, it brings our crap right up to the surface, because we can begin, and a number of people begin the workbook with a very positive intention to go all the way through from lesson 1 to lesson 365. And a lot of people stop way short of that for all kinds of reasons. And one of those reasons is that it brings up our ego clinging. It brings up our ego identification by design for release and for our awareness, are noticing this, noticing the concepts that develop around numbers, noticing the concepts that have to do with our confidence in ourselves, with our memory, really, with our remembering, in short, with our awareness. What happens is so many people get to lesson 9 or 10, I mean, the exact number doesn't make any difference. And you realize, okay, well, I'm not doing these suggested practice periods correctly. I'm doing it wrong, in other words. And depending on who you are and what your own psychological tendencies are, you could go into a warp speed tailspin and eat yourself. And well, I'm doing this wrong. I'm just going to stop. I mean, I resonate with this, but I'm doing it wrong. I can't. I can't do these exercises. I can't meditate. I can't read a page and a half of commentary a day. I can't. I don't have time. It's just not for me. It's not resonating, which, by the way, if it legitimately doesn't resonate with you, that's a whole nother question, right? That is absolutely 100% valid. However, let's pay attention to what's really going on, because this is an excuse that we give ourselves for not going further. This is something that's quite common. So by reaching lesson 175, you have no doubt experienced many, if not all, of these voices, and you're still here. So congratulations on that. It's not designed, the workbook is not designed to be a war of attrition. It's really not. It's not for the chosen few. We're all chosen. Each and every one of us is chosen. We've all heard the call. And the question then becomes, are we going to answer it? You've answered it. You're watching this succession of videos. And you're on lesson 175. So well done on that. Now let's keep going, shall we? Because my hope is that, having reached near the midway point here in the workbook, that you have had some release in your life of psychological tendencies, of ego clinging. My hope is that you've had some experiences, even if they were very brief, of being more loving. My hope is that you're even more forgiving than you were, a little bit more lighthearted, and that you're seeing things now, however subtly, in a different way than when you began. All it takes is a really small chunk of time to see things differently. Even one experience of an interaction, let's say, with people where before you would have been triggered and acted habitually, unskillfully, with anger, with rage, with disdain for the other person. Even the tiniest gap between the stimulus and your response is significant progress. This is something that meditation and mindfulness practice, and enter the practice periods in the workbook for students. These are things that we work on, but the more we can lengthen that gap between stimulus and our response, the more space, psychological, mental, emotional space we create to make different decisions. We show up in the world very, very differently as a result of these practice periods. So let's talk about another one, because as you know, we're in a review period today. We're right dab smack in the middle of it. We're reviewing lessons 159 and 160. And reminder here, with this series of review exercises, we spend some time with the truth. God is but love, and therefore so am I. And we sit with that. In this statement, declaration of truth about ourselves, God is but love, and therefore so am I. So in practice, I invite you to sit with this truth as long as you like. Let it rush over you, into you, through you. Let it penetrate the very foundation and fabric of your being. Do that, and then we're on to lesson 159, reviewing that. Lesson 159, as you'll recall, reads, I give the miracles that I have received. I give the miracles that I have received. We remember that giving and receiving are one. They're indeed the same thing. Giving is receiving. Receiving is giving. They're one. Now, what miracles have you received? Well, let us start with love and life itself. Each and every one of us is exactly as God created us. Creation is love, it is life, and we are made as creators. When we identify with the ego, we make a world. The Course points out a fundamental difference in its particular vocabulary, and it does have its own set of terms and meanings, which can be, when one starts out, a little bit confusing, for sure. But when you become aware of what the Course is really saying, there's a significant difference between creation and making. Boil it down to the truth that one is real, the other is not. Now, what this implies is very powerful. Our minds are so powerful that they can make a world in the first place, make it up. This means that we have the power to unmake it. How do we do that? We simply recognize its unreality, accept its unreality, and choose in the present moment, always in the present moment, who we really are. We choose life, we choose love, we choose God, we choose our higher self. You do not have to adopt A Course in Miracles as your sole spiritual practice. You may. It certainly will work as a standalone practice. And it's often used by people here in the world to augment and to shine some light on other traditions that they may be practicing. This is part of the genius and part of the beauty of a self-study course. One does not have to give up one's current practice. You don't have to dump your current religious or spiritual tradition in order to derive significant loving, powerful benefit from this material. This is one of the things that is so beautiful about this course that I literally cannot emphasize it enough, which is why in this series of videos and lives, I've said it over and over again. I'm going to say it over and over again as well, because my job as a teacher is simply to turn the camera and microphone on and deliver from my heart and from my own experience. I never know who's going to be watching. In a live broadcast, I never know who may be tuning in around the world. When we're looking at a replay or a video on a YouTube channel, I never know who's going to see it. So I cannot, will not, and indeed may not withhold anything from anyone. So what's going on here is I'm speaking directly from my heart, from my life, from my experience. And may it resonate deeply with you. I give the miracles that I have received. Again, when we give love, when we extend love, we recognize that we have received it, that we always have it. Why? When we give it to someone else, to our brothers and sisters, and they return it to us, we realize, I've never lost this. We always give the miracles that we have received. Now, forgiveness, that's a miracle. Again, quick review, a miracle means something different in this course than it does in ordinary societal dialogue, which a miracle could mean a physical cure, an improbable or technically impossible physical cure is often seen as a miracle, or something that qualifies as well, paranormal, that you may experience all the time, like levitation, like experience and knowledge, direct experience of past lives, things like that. Things like that are seen as miracles. And here in the course, it's broader and a lot more accessible than that. A miracle, reminder, is any switch, any shift from fear-based thoughts to loving thoughts. Forgiveness is a profound miracle. This is why it is emphasized so much in this course. So after we spend some time with lesson 159, I give the miracles I have received, then we return to the main idea for this entire review period, that God is but love, and therefore so am I, and sit with that as long as you like. It may be on a given day that 20 to 30 seconds suffices, and it may be that you're having such a profound and beautiful experience of this truth that you choose to sit for several more minutes. And whatever you're inspired to do is of tremendous benefit. And there's one more review idea. That's lesson 160. I am at home. I am at home. Fear is the stranger here. I am at home in love, in God, the way I was created, with all of you, everyone. Yeah. I'm at home. Fear is the stranger here. Fear is the stranger. Fear does not belong. Fear is unreal. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. It does not exist. We could choose it because we have our free will that has never been taken away from us, no matter how painful our wanderings, no matter how blighted periods of our lives have been, no matter how much suffering we may have endured up until this point, which is quite considerable. Oh yeah, in all lifetimes. As long as we identify with the ego, we experience the suffering. The fear is, in fact, the stranger here. And even if you don't really fully believe that, it's of great value to sit with the idea and let it sit in your mind. Let it resonate. Let it percolate. Just let it do its thing in there. The workbook so beautifully puts it at the outset that belief in these ideas is not required. Some may, in fact, trigger instant, active, and immediate resistance on your part. And if that happens, that's a good thing in my book. It is. The reason I say that is because it is your ego on the run. Things are coming up for release, for you to acknowledge them, forgive them, and release them. They're gone. Very, very powerful. The more we do this, the more we progress on the path. And ultimately, of course, the word progress is simply a word. It's a term that we've made up. And because we are as God created us, God is but love, and therefore, so am I, remember, we've never gone anywhere. We're simply awakening to this truth. And for the overwhelming majority of us, this is very, very gradual, isn't it? Can seem excruciatingly slow. However, if you wish to speed up everything, understand that you have the ability right now to choose love. You have the ability right now to take a look at and forgive your entire experience and yourself. Don't forget yourself for dreaming all of this. Because in truth, you'll realize by now, I'm certain that by lesson 175 in the workbook, you've felt this. God knows you've heard it a lot of times, that this is, in fact, this worldly existence, in fact, is a dream. We are waking up from it. You are waking up from it. So I do want to invite you, as always, if you have specific questions about these lessons, A Course in Miracles in general, or spirituality in general, I do want to invite you to get a hold of me, and email is, in fact, the best way to do that. So it's Tomas, Tomas, at tomasgarza.com. That is the easiest way to ask questions. And this can be a journey that generates a lot of questions. In fact, it really should. The study of A Course in Miracles should generate sometimes more questions than it answers, because the answer is always choosing love. It's always choosing God instead of the ego. Ask any question, that's the answer. So I invite any questions, be they general or specific, about this practice or about your spirituality in general. This is something that I am happy to show up and help with every day. That's why I record these videos. This has been A Course in Miracles I'm referring to here, the centerpiece of my own spiritual practice for the past 8 years. And I'm most certainly a different person as a result of this material. And I hope that if you're not yet, that you're well on your way to becoming that. All right, so thank you all, as always, for joining me, and I will see you again as we progress through the workbook for students. Have a great day.